Morning. I'm Ben Ayers, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to our Terry Exec Ed Center here in Atlanta and to our Terry Third Thursday program. I want to thank you for being here this morning. For us at UGA, this is the kickoff of the fall. I know it's still summer in Atlanta, but in Athens, it's already fall. Yesterday, we welcomed our class of 2026 to campus in Athens. Record number of first-year students that are in Athens, and if you happen to travel anytime soon, traffic is terrible. If you want a restaurant reservation, you need to go ahead and book that for October or November. But we're thrilled to be back. This is our Exec Ed Center. This is the home of our Executive MBA and our Professional MBA programs. We're thrilled to have approximately 400 MBA students that study in this space. We also have our Exec Ed team here that does custom programs and open enrollment programs for companies and leaders throughout Atlanta and the Southeast. I want to thank our alumni board for today's event and for this series. This is a wonderful opportunity for us each month to get together and network and hear from leaders in the Atlanta area, and today is no exception. So let me thank the alumni board. I also want to thank our corporate sponsor, Synovus, as well as our media sponsor, WABE Atlanta Public Broadcasting. So please join me in thanking them. So next month, we have Kevin Blair, who's the president and CEO of Synovus. And then in October, we have Andrew Cathy, who's the CEO of Chick-fil-A. So just like last year, we have an all-star lineup for this fall, and looking forward to today's presentation as well as the rest for this fall. It's my pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Steve Cannon. Steve is the CEO of AMB Sports and Entertainment, a for-profit holding company under the Arthur M. Blank family of businesses. Under his leadership, AMB SE has continued to increase its positive impact on the Atlanta community, and Steve is dedicated to building up the community while also building successful businesses. Steve has led the evolution of AMB SE's Mercedes-Benz Stadium since it opened its doors in August of 2017. As we all know, it's home to our Atlanta Falcons and Atlanta United. And the stadium has hosted a record-setting of large sports and entertainment events, including Super Bowl 53 in 2019, as well as the College Football Playoff Championship game in 2018. And this is not a critique of that, but that was a wonderful game until the last play. So just wanted to share that feedback on that, but until the last play, it was awesome. In June, FIFA announced that plans to host part of the 2026 World Cup tournament at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, so that will be a great event that we all look forward to in a couple of years. In addition to attracting world-class events to Atlanta, Steve has helped the stadium break new ground in giving back to the surrounding community. Mercedes-Benz Stadium was the first professional sports stadium in North America to achieve LEED Platinum certification by the United States Green Building Council. Also, the Sports Business Journal honored the stadium's food and beverage experience as the sports breakthrough of the year in 2018 for its record-breaking, affordable fanfare pricing. And all of us have been there and have enjoyed the food and the low prices. Steve, who began his career as an Army officer and West Point graduate, thank you for your service, led the efforts to Atlanta Falcons military outreach efforts to benchmark in the NFL. In 2018, he and Falcons head coach Dan Quinn spearheaded the first NFL team-directed USO tour, visiting soldiers at various bases throughout Iraq and Kuwait. We greatly appreciate those efforts at UGA. We are definitely a military-friendly college and university, and we are thrilled about those efforts and partnering with respect to our military veterans. Before joining AMB SE in 2016, Steve served as president and CEO of Mercedes-Benz USA and was responsible for leading operations that generated record sales with annual revenues exceeding $20 billion. So today's presentation is going to be a fireside chat. It's going to be facilitated by alumni board member and former Terry Third Thursday chair, Jamie Hockin. So please join me in welcoming Steve Cannon and Jamie Hockin. Thank you.
Thank you. right, I'm here.
Can y'all hear us?
Morning,
okay?
everybody. Hey.
All right, good morning. Well, Steve, thank you for being with us this morning. It's an honor to be up here with you, but on behalf of the board and the Cherry Third Thursday committee and everybody in this room, we appreciate you being here this morning. And thank you for your service as well. As a West Point
Appreciate it, Jamie. I think I misread the memo when I said yes to come into this. I thought it was Thirsty Thursday, not Third Thursday.
That happens later.
All right,
so
got it.
You just got to give us a few more
Sorry.
hours and we can make that happen. So we're going to go ahead and, so a little bit different format. I think everybody that's associated with the Terry Third Thursday is used to somebody getting up and speaking. And I think this is a unique format that everybody's going to enjoy this morning. So we've got a few loaded questions for you. And then we're going to open up for Q&A. So let's make this interactive and let's have fun with it. But AMBSE, lots of different organizations under that umbrella. I think for a lot of us, we think we kind of know what's going on and what that means. But give us just an overview and kind of the scope of AMB and what it is you're doing day to day.
So obviously our two beloved teams, we had a rough outing last night with Atlanta United, a little disappointed, but we got our Falcons, we've got Atlanta United. So NFL, the most powerful, successful sports league on the planet. It's amazing to be part of that collective. Atlanta United is sort of like a startup in a portfolio that got off to an amazing start. It's kind of reset the bar for the expectations for what soccer can do in North America, and one of the big reasons why the World Cup is coming back to America is they've started to see the soccer culture in the United States finally come around to a point where the World Cup should be here. So that's Atlanta United. Mercedes-Benz Stadium, amazing $2 billion facility that I got to parachute in and spend the last year and a half of that build through, which was a harrowing experience because that roof was a little complicated. We weren't sure it was going to work, and it was this close to looking for alternative venues because it wasn't going to be ready. But we made it across the start line and got it launched in August of 17. And we've been tweaking and perfecting it ever since. We love the fact that Mercedes-Benz Stadium is like a laboratory, an innovation lab, all designed to meet ever-changing expectations of our fans, right? The old days of, kind of like Bobby Dodd, aluminum bleacher seats, you grab your popcorn, you sit in your seat, and then you leave a few hours later. Those days are over. If you want to get fans today, you got to build Disneyland, and you got to create an environment that's engaging, that's interactive, that people want to hang out at. If anybody's seen any of the clubs at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, you'll know what I'm talking about. In certain parts, it looks like you're in a Ritz-Carlton bar, and it's a football stadium. So Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Really exciting PGA Tour Superstores. It's about 54 stores across the country. Golf, as you all know, has gotten a lot of tailwinds from the pandemic, and suddenly it's a boom growth sport in the United States, which is fantastic for us. That is an absolute growth business. In fact, we've, over the last 3 years, grown 80%. So really exciting part of the portfolio there. Completely different from football and soccer, but a lot of fun. And then there's a couple of ranches out in Montana that's Arthur's passion. Conservation, there's a dude ranch, there's a executive conference center out there. So it's quite an eclectic collection. But the way Arthur said it is, I only do businesses that I love. And we've looked at a lot of other businesses for potential acquisition in the portfolio. And if it's something that he can love, he'll be part of it. In fact, I'll tell just one quick story. We were about to go into e-gaming. So there was an esports company. We were going to be the Atlanta franchise. And me and our team just chased the diligence down. And we were ready to essentially sign the document. And we had a big meeting with Arthur. And Arthur killed the whole thing. He said, look, I'm about getting up, getting off the couch, engaging, interacting with other people. I don't think it's the best thing for America or our youth to be sitting isolated with whatever headsets that they might have on a couch. So right at the last minute, as we had fully done our due diligence, he said, I can't believe in this. And I said, Arthur, I can't argue with a single sentiment that you just communicated. I just wish you'd done it 2 months ago when we started the diligence. So anyway, that's enough. But it's a great set of businesses. I'm privileged to be part of it.
Well, it's really awesome. I mean, what y'all have done here, really for the city. And I know for me, when I think of kind of opening up the floodgates of championships here in our region, I think y'all kind of started it a few years ago. So congratulations on that. The United win was really awesome. And that was really great to see.
And then the Braves, and then the Bulldogs,
Yeah,
and
it's,
look, we got to get the Lombardi Trophy. We're not gonna feel great until we rewrite that last 10 minutes of that game that was going great until it wasn't going great. So. And that was funny because that was my first year, on the job in the NFL, and I'm standing in this, at the Super Bowl, kind of wide-eyed and amazed. And then the way the game played out, and all my friends from all over the country were, congratulating me, and I'm like, don't congratulate me, please. Like, it's too early.
Yeah.
And sure enough, it was too early.
Well, it's just such a huge success. So with United and really the Falcons, a little bit of work, but I know we're all really excited about the product that we're going to see for the coming year. So
really love the direction of the team. As a matter of fact, we're going up to play the Jets. The team's leaving tomorrow, and I'm taking them up for a walkthrough at my alma mater, West Point. So their final practice before Monday Night Football. We're going to engage with the football players and the cadets and the staff up at West Point. So just so neat to be able to kind of bring our team, our players to such a special place and let them know kind of what that's all about. So that happens on Sunday.
that is very cool.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Cool to hear. Well, Dean Ayers mentioned the fan experience at Mercedes-Benz, and I think for those of us that are big sports fans that are around the country that have experienced different venues, I think y'all have got it figured out. And so can you just give us, how have y'all kind of figured out the way to make that fan experience top tier, second to none? Because it is really a great experience every time you walk into that building.
So it starts with two things, a little bit of humility, right? We want to understand our fans, and the best way to understand them is ask them what they want, what are their expectations, and to understand that you got to do something special if you want to get people in your building. I always say our competition isn't the Hawks or the Braves, it's the 80-inch flat screen that's in every living room in America that now have 4,000K, high def, you name it. So to get folks out of their living room into our stadiums where they have to go through Atlanta traffic, they got to pay for parking, they got to pay for a ticket, all that stuff is a high hurdle bar that we have to honor and respect. So from day one, and Arthur is a service-oriented guy at his core, and he lives that, he breathes that, and he's drilled it into the ethos, the value system of our company. So it's all about trying to understand the customer and then give them what they want, serve them. So from day one, we hired, while we were building the stadium, an experienced engineer from Disney, one of the Imagineers. He was part of our team in the very early conception of the stadium to try to think through the entire fan journey. And for us, the fan journey starts when you leave your home, and how do you get there on Waze or whatever map you use that's been integrated into our application, how you get in through parking. We found that if you have a lousy entry experience, that's going to cloud everything. So if you're standing online, and the national championship, you might recall there was a couple of lines then. I blame the president. That wasn't on us. The president showed up. That's a whole interesting story in and of itself. But getting in, if you can't get in properly, everything else goes down. I mean, the hot dogs taste worse, and the beer is so it just colors everything. So we've broken down the fan experience journey into each of its component parts, and we measure it obsessively. We do a thing called the voice of the fan, and after every single event, whether it's a concert, football, soccer, we measure that, we get that feedback, we take the team together, we after action it, and we find out where we can do better. So for me, it's this nonstop laboratory. We've tweaked now the stadium in 1,000 different ways, from the disastrous sound in the Garth Brooks concert. Maybe somebody was there, it was awful. We bit off more than we could chew in our very first execution, but we then had sound engineers and we were tweaking it all along, and now it's a concert venue that the artists absolutely love to play in. So it's just that commitment to say you're never done. The fans' expectations, you got to honor them every single day. There's so much choice now, right? So to just expect people are going to line up for a ticket to come to Mercedes-Benz Stadium is a bad expectation, and that's how we've kind of managed it. So the minute we stop thinking about and obsessing about fan experience is the day we start dropping backward.
Well, I think y'all have really got it figured out, and I think you're right. There's always something more that fans want, but y'all are doing a tremendous job. So let's talk a little bit about leadership. So West Point grad, you led Mercedes-Benz North America, now AMB. You've got accolades left and right, highly successful career, but just give us some insight as to what have kind of been the things that have guided you from a leadership perspective. There's got to be some guiding principles underneath there that have really led you to where you are today.
I do have a whole kind of leadership thing. We don't, but it starts with a couple things. First, as a leader, you don't need to be the smartest guy or gal in the room. Starts with that. I've run into so many leaders that show up, and the first thing that they need to try to do with their teams is to demonstrate how smart they are, right? So they talk, they pontificate. For me, it's not about being the smartest person in the room. It's about extracting all the intelligence that a diverse organization brings to bear around whatever business problem that you might be facing. So starts with that recognition. That's my job. For me, I pay attention to the system, not the result. So when I say system, I mean the culture. I'm a big culture warrior. I know if I set the culture right that honors the individual, that respects them, that develops them, that nurtures their desire to be there and to be a developing, growing human being. If you can create an environment like that where people almost self-actualize, become their best selves in your work environment, right? If you can do that, you've done something very, very special. So by paying attention to that stuff, the outcomes kind of always follow. And Arthur is wired exactly the same way. We don't chase the outcomes. If you do the right things, you concentrate on the inputs, the outcomes will follow. The minute you start chasing outcomes, bad things happen. And I come out of the car business, and you all might have heard about the VW diesel cheating scandal. Well, that happened when they wanted to be the #1 car brand in the world. So somehow that aspiration, that outcome aspiration, trickles down through an organization to where a development engineer decided, let me do a little software hack and cheat the system so that when I do the testing protocol on this diesel engine, it's going to show a level of efficiency that's a lie, right? So those are the unintended things that that percolate into the culture when you're chasing an outcome. So for me, it's always been, first and foremost, if I can create that great culture, and we just got named as one of the great places to work. So there's a Great Places to Work Institute. I obsessed about that when we were at Mercedes-Benz, and we were in the top 100 best places to work in the United States 5 years in a row. Have carried that to a smaller set of companies, and we are a great place to work. So that matters, right? If you do that, if you create that system, the market share or the innovation or the other things that you want to as outcomes, that'll follow.
Just a follow-up. So culture just doesn't change overnight, right? It takes time. I mean, so is it something where you all look at it and you realize, hey, look, this is something that we're committed to, and it may take 6 months, a year, 6 years.
Yeah.
I mean, for companies that are trying to look at how they enact change in an organization, you certainly must have some patience.
Alone by paying attention to it, it will change, right? Whenever you shine a light on something and you're intentional about it, it just has a tendency to change along with it. I talk to a lot of leadership teams when I'm in my travels, especially when I was calling on dealerships across the country. And the first question I'd ask is, describe for me the culture that you're trying to curate here inside of your organization. Define it for me. And a lot of folks would just sort of scratch their head and said, well, I never really thought about that. And that's a shame, right? That's a failure of leadership, because culture's going to show up whether you pay attention to it or not. Wouldn't you want to pay attention to it? So for me, we pay attention to it by measuring it. I do an annual culture survey that we measure. We say, please give us your feedback. We can't get better. Culture is a participation sport. Culture is not us handing the tablets down from the mountain to all of you. Here is our culture. Culture is how we create it together. So it's a process where the engaged employees have to show up and give that kind of input. So every single year we get the input. I take the leadership team to an offsite, and this happens every single year. We break down the results. We prioritize what we think really matters. What is this telling us? What's noise and what's actual fact? And then we action plan that. And over time, the the associates start really believing, right? They're not just paying lip service to this. They're not just doing a culture survey because that's what you're supposed to do so they can check a box. If you demonstrate that it matters and you show them, here are the 5 things that you said to us in the culture survey, and here's what we're going to do about it. If you do that, and then you just iterate that and make it part of your company process, I guarantee you will get better. And that's exactly the process that we used when we went from bad culture, lousy culture at Mercedes-Benz, to one of the best places to work in America. And that happened over a 4 or 5 year period. And it doesn't happen overnight, especially I arrived after a bad management team. One guy got kicked out for malfeasance. We had what I would describe as a toxic culture. So you can go from toxic to best in class in a period of time if you pay attention and if you commit to it.
That's a great insight, thank you. So one of the things that would probably indicate just how great the culture is, where y'all are at right now, is just your community impact and how engaged you are in the community. Can you just talk about some of the things that y'all are doing around this Atlanta community and elsewhere, highly recognized around your work with military families, but also around the community just in general, if you could share with the group?
Sure. So part of our core values, the core value system of our company, giving back is one of them. Our job is to kind of use the platforms and the businesses that we have the privilege of operating inside this community to making the community a better place. And I would argue, and when we talk about purpose inside of our company with our associates, our purpose is not to throw a football game or a soccer match. Our purpose is to build community. We build community. This is a place, kind of the ecumenical church now is what stadiums have become, right? People come on Sundays or Saturdays or whenever, and that's our time to be together, right? Regardless of where you come from, who you pray to, how much you have in your bank account, we're that place where people come, hopefully check their troubles at the door, and celebrate, right? So we try to build community. And that's one of the reasons why we built LEED Platinum, first of its kind in the sports industry, because if you're going to be part of your community, you got to be a good citizen. And being a good citizen means leaving a light footprint. And so we started there, but then said, that's not good enough. Just having built to a particular standard is great, but operating to a standard is even better. So we are also the first zero waste facility in the world. We got just a green certification. So zero waste means you have to divert more than 90% of what you produce in refuse and divert it from landfill. So we have people that sort through garbage to pick out the stuff that shouldn't go. We got compost, we got recycle, and we have landfill. And if we can divert 90% of that, that means you're zero waste. That's a government thing, 90% equals zero. But hey, whatever. But I'll take it. We're zero waste. We are a zero waste facility. But that is a commitment to the community to doing things the right way. It's not just what you accomplish, it's how you accomplish it. And from day one, built into our companies is this notion that we are a public-private partnership, so we are absolutely obligated. It's part of our business model to give back. And things like the World Cup, I'll get to some of the other more altruistic things, but the World Cup is an absolute give back to the community. We won't make a dime on the World Cup as an organization, but we have this facility. There's some public funds inside of that facility. So how can we use that facility to best benefit of our community of Atlanta? And I can tell you, if you all aren't excited about the World Cup, you should be. It'll come exactly 30 years after the Olympics came here the last time, 1996. That did a little something for the city of Atlanta, kind of took us from a regional city into a national city. Well, 30 years later, look at how much Atlanta has progressed. And you won't believe kind of the circus that surrounds the World Cup. In a lot of ways, the World Cup is surpassing the Olympics as kind of the global sporting event. And to think that we're going to have that, we don't know. I think we're going to be a semifinal city. We're going to be one of the most important kind of stadium points for the execution of the World Cup. And that's because we've got best-in-class, world-class stadium, and the head of FIFA said exactly that. But what amazed them even more, in this little town of Atlanta, we've built the best soccer culture in all of North America. They were so wowed, impressed by what we did, what we've done with Atlanta United, how we've energized the community. So all those ingredients will lead to a moment in 4 years that will have the entire world come here. It's going to help economic development. I mean, the impact, $500 million at least just in hotel rooms and parties and the things that go with an event of that nature. But the downstream effects, and I can tell you as someone that relocated a company from New Jersey to Atlanta, the more people that see Atlanta is going to have a positive downstream impact of other folks that'll look at this community and say, vibrant, Georgia Tech at its centerpiece, Georgia, college kids. We've got almost all the raw ingredients that allow for businesses to come, access talent, be part of a connected community and thrive. So the World Cup's going to do that. Enough for the advertorial on World Cup. I'll give you one example, though, that to me sort of signifies sort of who we are as an organization. When the pandemic hit, we were gearing up for the Final Four. I mean, we were like installing the basketball courts. That's how close we were. Everything got shut down, sent people away. Well, we had kitchen capacity that was unused, number one. We had pantries that were full because we were stocking them up for the World Cup. First thing we did was we put that to use for first responders and then ultimately for community in need. And as you all recall, there were some pretty long lines at food banks as we went through that process. And we served out of our facility hundreds of thousands of meals to folks in need during that moment. We took essentially idle capacity, right? All that kitchen capacity. We had people on staff that we were still paying. So we used all that for the benefit of the community. Feel even better about what we did with the vaccination thing as we were trying to ramp up. We had a vaccine ready, but we had a distribution system that it's like, oh, somebody forgot to think about that. And that's when mass distribution centers started to stand up, and FEMA, not FIFA, see my acronyms, FEMA came to us and said, would you be a mass vaccination site? And so sure enough, we did, and that was a super heavy lift, and it had us working 7 days a week and stressed the team. But we optimized it. We were the most efficient mass distribution center because we've got a mentality of if we're going to do it, it's going to be customer oriented, and we're going to do it right. In fact, we had the Army. There was a whole platoon, and not a platoon, more like a battalion of folks from Fort Stewart that were helping do the vaccines. And I came and spoke to them about customer experience before they took their shifts. And the whole idea there was, look, this is a really important moment. People have been kind of huddled away, separated for the last year. This is a moment where they can get vaccinated and hopefully get their lives back. So it's a big deal. A lot of people are scared about that. You have a moment of truth that you all are in charge of, and you can either be a bureaucratic sort of DMV-like approach to this, or you can think about this as an opportunity to deliver caring hospitality to people that really need it. So the soldiers, they did that. 300,000 vaccines later, that was another amazing kind of community impact. So I could go on and on across the board on the things that we do. Military is one of my big deals, is because I went to Arthur when I joined. We've got Fort Stewart, we've got Fort Benning, we've got Fort Gordon, and NFL's got this thing called Salute to Service, and fantastic. It's using the platform to shine a spotlight on service and sacrifice. I said to Arthur, look, Arthur, we've got more soldiers, veterans, families in our country, in our backyard than any other NFL franchise, probably per capita. If there's an NFL franchise that needs to get Salute to Service right, it needs to be the Atlanta Falcons. So permission to go and make us benchmark. And Arthur was like, all in, go for it. And it just so happened, serendipity. Two of my classmates, one was the commander at Fort Benning, the other was the commander at Fort Stewart, both two-star generals. And I called them up and said, hey, I want to use our platforms for the benefit of your soldiers, your families, and to just use this in ways that will benefit. So we lined up at the top of the house, and our teams have executed, and 4 out of 5 years in a row, this is something I'm super proud of, 32 teams in the NFL execute Salute to Service. Every year they recognize one individual for extraordinary efforts with Salute to Service, and 4 out of 5 years, somebody from the Atlanta Falcons organization won the Salute to Service recognition, which is testimony to the fact that for us, Salute to Service wasn't one weekend a year as ordered by the NFL. Our attitude was Salute to Service is 365 days a year, and how can we use the platforms, more thoroughly, and I think we've done a pretty good job of that.
Yeah, it was, goes back to culture and commitment, and clearly y'all are committed to the community, and we certainly appreciate everything y'all are doing. Just as a little tidbit, if you want to see Steve's, when he was presented with the Salute to Service Award, pretty cool, few minutes with the commissioner and some family members. So anyway, it was kind of a cool thing to see his response. Clearly was a huge deal.
It was virtual. I got the virtual award, but Rich McKay, who runs the Falcons, great guy, said, "Hey, Steve, the commissioner needs to talk to us. I can't take the meeting. Would you take the meeting?" So I'm like a little, all right, what does the commissioner want? So sure enough, it was the commissioner, and it was a surprise, and he gives the award, and in the kind of virtual waiting room, family, classmates, friends from West Point from 35 years ago, all gathered together, on those gallery screens, and I'm looking at. So, it was really cool.
Yeah, it was
really cool.
Yeah, awesome. Well, talk about family. You have a large family, and you clearly have a lot going on professionally. So just give us a little bit of insight into how the heck do you balance what you're doing every day at work with your family?
9 kids, so 7 girls, 2 boys, two are married, 2 grandkids. I got 8 launched in varying states of career progression or non-progression, but they're all doing great. And my last one, Carly, who's here in Atlanta, is a junior. Started yesterday at Pace. So. Look, it's a good thing I was a platoon leader in the Army, right? So all those skills that I learned over those years, I was able to put into practice. And listen, life is so rich. I'm so blessed. There's always something going on when you got 9 kids. Hey, if you have 2 kids, there's always something going on. But with 9 kids, just imagine there's always something going on. And I'm at a point where the kids seek out my counsel. They're in their career progression. They've got a lousy boss. There's too many lousy bosses out there, by the way. And so they're calling me with business challenges or life challenges. And to be able to be part of your kids' lives in that way, having transitioned from kind of caretaker and parent to friend, coach, supporter, advocate, that's the sort of phase of life, except for my 16-year-old, I'm still right on top of that one. So it's just fun, blessed, and I had this question with a bunch of students just the other day. It's like, how do you balance it? And I said, just be intentional, right? If you pay attention and you make it a priority, it'll happen. So I've traveled a lot throughout my career, but wherever my kids are, so New York and at their different colleges, I would always land the plane, have dinner, have an engagement with the kids, get back on the plane, go to the next stop. So you can always find ways, even in a very busy schedule, to make sure that that's relevant. And now it's just easy. I just tell the kids, look at the United schedule, look at the Falcon schedule, pick your games, pick your flights, come on in, and I never have to twist any arms to get them all to come to visit me. So it's pretty cool.
It's a nice perk.
It is.
Yeah,
it's
that's
good.
Awesome.
It's good.
I don't know how we're doing on time, Christine, but we get one more. All right, so I don't want to belabor the World Cup point, even though it is just a tremendous opportunity for the city and the stadium. But just the events that y'all have held in that facility, you've got Super Bowl, National Championship. We've got one coming up here in a few years that we're very excited about. Final Four. Now, what is the process for landing those big fish in this event space?
Painful. It's painful. All these big events, want to take all their costs and hand them to the host cities, right? That's the business model. How much of our costs can we push onto you all? So you gotta push back where you have to push back. We've been back and forth with FIFA. They asked for the stars, and we said we can give you the moon, but you're not getting the stars. We don't want to lose money on this, right? We're not going to lose money. But we don't need to make money because Atlanta will make the money and all the benefits there. So it's a multi-year process. We've been going at FIFA now for the past year and a half, up to kind of awarding the cities. And now I'm sending a small team to Qatar to go see the World Cup this summer or in the fall. And it'll be 4 years worth of back and forth to try to get this right. It's a heavy, heavy, heavy lift. But it's a lot of fun. So we've done college football. The only one we haven't done was the Final Four, and that's because we got shut down. We're back in line. We will get the Final Four. So just coming up, we've got semifinal college football game this year. We've got finals in 25. We've got World Cup in 26. We're in line for the Super Bowl and trying really hard for 28. Arthur's making that his personal mission because we did so great with the Super Bowl that we want to do it again. And then Final Four. So this constant array of big events, they really do serve a purpose. It does put us on a national map. Think of it as business development, right? For all you business execs, every time we bring people and expose them to a phenomenal community, that leaves some residue. And speaking as somebody that relocated, it's an impressive place. So this is a business development expense. It's not just about the hotel rooms and the airline tickets that we're going to get. It's about how do we keep this vibrant community on the map and be part of the the circle of cities that are influx cities, growth cities, as opposed to cities that have out-migration, every single year. And Atlanta, of all the 32 NFL cities, I'd rather be Atlanta than almost any other city that's out there. Think Buffalo, think Cincinnati, think Cleveland. This is a vibrant place to be. So it's great for the community. It's great for business development. It's a crazy, crazy heavy lift. And when it comes time, we're not far enough along, is we're going to, this will take the whole community, right? Something as big as World Cup, AMB SE can't execute it. We've got a host committee with the city. We're going to need partners and sponsors and volunteers. So we've seen this before. This will be Olympic-esque in its scope. Same kind of scope, if there's anybody that remembers that. Only now, it's 30 years later, and expectations have dramatically changed, right? Executing the Olympics in 96 versus 26, night and day difference, just because we've changed, our behavior's changed, our expectations have changed. So fun, something to look forward to. But I'll just say this. This is back to the economic development point. Without the stadium, the CIM development in downtown doesn't happen. I'm working with those guys, and they've told us as much. So just think about kind of what sparks further on investment. There's a whole array of investment up and down North Side. It's going to spill into the West Side. That's already starting. So think about that. You make an investment. I tell Arthur the decision of yours that I admire the most is not how we laid out the clubs, but your first and most important decision to locate in the city and not out of the city. Because so many owners, that's what they do, right? They go to a place, they get gifted whatever the amount of land is, they pave it all because parking is a huge revenue driver, and then they're out in the outskirts. He said, I want to be part of the downtown, I want to be part of the community. Way more expensive to build downtown. You don't have the parking control, so you lose some revenue streams. So just think about that. But because we located there, all these follow-on things are happening, and CIM is the most just obvious example. That's a $10 billion investment in downtown that's going to reset Atlanta. I mean, we were all super proud of Midtown, but downtown has needed some work for a long, long time, and now billions and billions of development dollars are being poured in. CIM's just one of them. There's like 4 other big development companies that are working downtown. So think about Atlanta with all that it has to offer, with now a Buckhead, a Midtown, and a downtown, that north-south axis, all hubs of phenomenal activity. I'm, as you might notice, even though I'm a Jersey boy, I'm pretty bullish on Atlanta.
Well, we appreciate the passion, because we're all bullish on Atlanta and love living here, and it's a great city, and y'all have played a huge role in that. So, all right, with that, I think we're going to turn it over and open it up for questions, if you're good with it.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
I can't tell you what the questions are going to be, but, I think we've got microphones. Christine can walk around.
Hey, Steve. So, is this on?
Yeah.
Your last point was exactly what I wanted to ask about. So, if you could touch on more, talk about being a good neighbor. Talk about who you're surrounded by and the partnership you have with all the other folks in that district that you're in. Whether it's the Georgia World Congress Center, the arena next door, the park, the other entertainment areas in there. Talk about how y'all work together so that you can continue to build on that environment and then what's happening with the new development?
So we're all connected. You know, Steve Koonin is a friend. Derek Schiller is a friend. We talk all the time. What the Braves did in Battery Park is amazing. And, you know, there were a lot of skeptics out there, and a lot of folks were a little bit angry about having them moved out of town. I look at it more as they created a new hub in Atlanta that is now additive to the overall community. So we talk a lot. We understand the impact that sports franchises can have on a city, and we do our best to kind of conspire. So Steve Koonin is intimately involved with Tony Ressler and the whole CIM project downtown. We're partners in that, even though I wouldn't say competitors, we're cooperators, because the rising tide that lifts all boats, and as Atlanta becomes better, it's not like his, if he stands up a hotel over there, it's going to compete with something that we're building, over near our stadium. It all becomes additive. So first and foremost, we've got great partnerships with the folks downtown, and we're all wired similarly, right? Even the Braves, who are a public company from not from Atlanta, still show up in a way that's consistent. And I would say that was one of the reasons that attracted me most about Atlanta when we were thinking about relocating, is I got this feeling that the business community really, really cared about their city. And they knew each other, not just having met each other for the first time to court Mercedes-Benz to come down to Atlanta, but they were connected, and they were all on a first-name basis. It was impressive, because I came from New Jersey, and we were anonymous up there. I mean, it was amazing. Had been there for 50-plus years, and it's top 10 global brand. And yet inside of that community, it's like, Mercedes who? And yet we came down here, and I saw this connected community. So I think when you come here, you get the message very early that this is a group that cares deeply about their city, and you better join the community if you want to be part of the corporate community, and try to make that a better place.
Awesome.
Hi, Steve. Quick question about, with the departure of Darren Eales from Atlanta United, can you speak about your approach to change management within a corporation?
Change is good. Change is inevitable. We live in such a dynamic, changing environment that if agility isn't one of your core competencies, you've got a really big problem. So I love Darren. What a phenomenal guy. He's done amazing things for Atlanta United and for the community and for the soccer community. But change is good. He's going on to an amazing opportunity for him, for his family, and all I can do is say congratulations and thank you for all that you've done. We're going to find a phenomenal replacement for Darren. He's going to be great, and we're going to get back to where we need to be. I don't like what happened last night. I don't like the fact that this team that has an expectation of being a super team inside of MLS has not performed as well as we need to perform on the pitch. That's going to change. We love our new coach, Gonzalo Pineda. Fantastic, value-driven guy, and super intense. So net is, it was a surprise, but I always knew Darren, given what his background was, that we were renting him, and at some point that call was coming. It came. I now have a search organization that's going to cast a very wide net around the globe to find the best candidate. The good news is that won't be trouble at all finding the best and the brightest, because the job of Atlanta United, of being the CEO for Atlanta United, is now become one of the coveted jobs in not just in North American soccer, but in global soccer. So I'm excited, pumped up. I'm camping out now at the training ground. Great opportunity for me to sort of dig in deeper and be part of that organization more intimately than at the overall CEO level. So it's a great experience for me, and we'll find somebody. And my goal is that we'll have Darren's replacement in place by the October, November, in time for the next campaign and the next transfer window. We'll be good to go.
Well, one thing, a testament to what y'all built, though, the team may not be performing to the level that you would want or expect, but I mean, the fans are still showing up to every game, and the fans are 100% committed to the team. So that's really exciting, because Atlanta sports fans haven't always been known to do that. So.
No, listen, we're averaging over 40,000. That's our average. The average in MLS soccer is around 24,000. So we're number one, not by a little, but by a lot. And we've done that now for the entire sort of history of Atlanta United, and we're the number 10 global audience for a soccer team. Amazing. During the World Cup that happened in Russia the last time, there was a big, I think it kicked off while we were also kind of rounding through the playoffs. We had in that weekend that had 2 or 3 giant World Cup gatherings in Russia, we were the number one soccer audience that weekend, which is because we had a 70,000 stadium event for Atlanta United. So cool that's happening right here in Atlanta.
Hey, Steve, it sounds like stewardship or environmental stewardship and sustainability is a priority. What are some other innovation focus areas you can share that you have the whole team, I guess, planning around for the next few years?
So innovate continuously. So innovation is one of the core values of the company. There's always a better way. There's always a smarter way. You're never done. And technology is a great way to advance the business proposition. Right now, we've got 5 different pilots going on in the stadium. You know, finding hourly workers, you all might know, has been a little bit difficult, and we've been challenged by that also. So we're looking at sort of self-serve markets, self-serve, you know, kind of attached to your season ticket membership. You just walk through. You don't have to do anything, and it just charges to your account. So we're working on frictionless. We just deployed an amazing technology, not the old-fashioned magnetometers where you walk through, they beep, you walk back, you walk through. It's a technology called Evolve that we were the first team to embrace. Different technology, don't need to take your keys out of your pocket, don't need to take your wallet out of your pocket. You walk through, and you can walk through 5 abreast. So we're seeing the same levels of security with many fewer personnel. So there's a business case there. We formed a small group called AMB SE Ventures. So it's a little venture arm that looks for smart business models, smart investments. The idea there is if we stay close to innovation from other sources, right? There's so much money being poured into the sports landscape. There's probably a good idea out there that we can deploy inside of our company. So this venture arm is almost our magnet to attract business models that we look at, evaluate, invest in, not because of the whatever internal the IRR for that project, more for what's the strategic value of that technology and can we deploy it elsewhere in our ecosystem. So there's lots and lots of examples, and we've been tweaking the stadium ever since. The fun part, there's just a lot of crazy capital that's coming into the sports world. You all saw that the Denver Broncos sold for $4.6 billion, and a couple guys raised their hand and said, "I would have paid $5." So you know, that's a good thing. Those kind of valuations, you know, allow for that, you know, big investment. So it's exciting that the journey that the sports world is on. Look at how much college football has changed between the SEC and the Big Ten, the consolidation, the name, image, likeness. The whole world of college football is dramatically different inside of like 2 years, and we don't even yet fully know the implications of what that's going to mean for college football and college sports in general. So exciting times. Back to the point of agility. If you can't respond to change, you're going to fall behind. And so an organization that stays on the front foot and leans into change is going to probably be more successful.
Great. Yeah. Another question?
Steve, great hearing from you this morning. Roy White, a part of the Class of 23 PMBA program. You just spoke about a few attributes that allow AMB Sports Entertainment Group to be such a great company to work for and to be at, but I wanted to know some of your personal attributes that you've gained or developed over the years that allowed you to be so successful.
You know, it's so don't be the smartest guy in the room. Ask 1,000 questions. Like so what I do as a CEO is I ask questions. That's all. It's like my life's work is to just pressure test, try to understand, push back on if I don't understand things. So that, as opposed to, here's my plan, I'm the new guy. And I've actually gotten pretty good at the process of parachuting into a new organization. That process of getting to know, listen, that's the first thing I do. I go on listening tours, and I don't formulate anything until I've listened to a lot of people. If you do that, that'll really help you along the way. So ask 1,000 questions. Listen more than you speak. That's another thing that I employ all the time. And at the end, leadership has to be visible, and you got to be. And that's an Army thing, right? It's the Army. It's called battlefield circulation. The leader needs to go to the point of emphasis, if nothing else, than to be seen by the soldiers, to say, I'm in this with you, right? That's what it's called in the Army. It's called management by walking around, in the civilian context. And you can't lead from a corner office. The things right now that I'm learning about Atlanta United and the culture up there, because I'm camped out there every single day, having sort of one-on-one meetings, group meetings, I'm learning things that you certainly will never learn from a PowerPoint presentation or a spreadsheet. So our obligation as leaders is to be out, be visible. The stuff that you will learn by projecting yourself into an organization is really going to help you make the better decisions. So get out, move around, be visible. That's probably one of the most important things. And if you want to underscore values, the best way to do it is to model them, right? So you can have a mission statement or a core set of values that gets posted up on the walls and in PowerPoints, but until people see their leaders living those values, they're not going to believe you. So the more you project yourself, the more reps people will see of leadership living the values that they profess, and so you create a really positive dynamic. So got to get out of the corner office. And in this crazy, distracted world, and this is one of my most important ones, is our job as leaders is to bring our best self to every engagement. That should be our standard. And what I mean by that is, we live in a crazy, distracted world. We all think we can multitask. We can't. We're lousy multitaskers as beings. We just are bad at it. And if you're a leader and you're in the front of your room and a group is presenting to you and you're on your phone, you've made just a terrible example, right? Here is a group that's going to present to the CEO. They've probably rehearsed. They've probably stressed about it a little bit, because that's kind of a big deal for a young associate. And if I'm up there disrespecting that moment by being here, then I've just set a terrible example. So really important, leave those devices out of your reach. So we've all been Pavlovian trained to reach for them as if our lives depended on it, right? Like, do we need to really respond to that text in a nanosecond, even in traffic on I-85, on 75, when our lives depended? Yet we're still looking at these things like the most important thing is just going on right here. The most important thing that's going on is what we're doing right now. So be present or don't show up. And that applies to work, your marriage, your relationships, your family, your kids. If you can bring your best self to those engagements, then chances are you'll be in a pretty good place.
Great. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you. We have time for one more? Okay. Got one right here.
Hi, my name is Safwan. I'm a class of PMBA 2022, so about to graduate pretty soon. I want to actually I have kind of two questions. And so first, how there's always those pre-games in college football where they, for example, Oregon and Georgia are going to be, I think, playing in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. What's the process into getting teams to play into that? And then you spoke a little bit about the changing of college football. As I think you are aware, two teams from the Pac-12, USC and UCLA, are now moving to the Big Ten. What are some of the things that you see in the future? Do you see a super conferences happening?
Yeah.
Or, okay.
Yeah, there's the governing body went from the NCAA down to the conference level. The genie, unfortunately, is out of the bottle, and we don't know the downstream implications, and it's rewriting the college landscape to the, potentially to the haves and have-nots, and that's what everybody's so terrified of. Am I going to be on the wrong side when the music stops and I don't land in a conference, and a money conference that brings in the big TV revenues, right? So this is the game that's going on, and you can see these realignments all driven by dollars. The giant college football media contracts are what's doing that. Closer into home, we're out there with all the conferences saying, hey, we've got an amazing stadium that if you hold your event in our stadium, you'll make more money, right? So we just appeal to the presidents with the dollar, right? At the end, if you're at Bobby Dodd that has, like, I don't know, a few suites, we've got 191 suites, we've got premium. So the construct of the stadium is really revenue friendly. That's why we attract all these big events. That's why FIFA was wide-eyed, because if they come here versus Camping World Stadium in Florida that doesn't have that premium stuff, you can't charge the high dollars for those premium tickets. So it's a revenue game. That's it. Just follow the money. That's what's going to govern the realignment of the conferences. That's why we keep trying to appeal to Georgia. The Georgia-Florida game shouldn't be happening in Jacksonville. It should be happening in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Anybody here? If anybody here has influence on that, let me show you the pro forma on that one. It's going to be pretty positive for all you. Yeah, so it's a money game, and there's a lot of downstream consequences. This name, image, likeness is absolutely changing the landscape of sports, and even how kids go to which college they're going to attend, and then kind of the attitudes that they'll bring into the professional game. So we're waiting on the downstream effects. They're going to be profound, though. Profound.
Well, great. I think that's all the time we have, Steve.
That's
This
it.
has
Thank
been
you.
Awesome. I think I speak for most of the people in this room. We look forward to seeing you at Mercedes-Benz in a few weeks to kick off the season. We're all fired up about that game, and it's going to be a lot of fun. But more importantly, we just want to thank you.
Hey,
Really appreciate you.
Jamie, you're a
spending
great
time with us.
moderator.
No,
Thank you.
Steve.
All right.
Really enjoyed it. Thanks.
Thank you, Steve. We have a wonderful red and black sculpture for you as a thank you for today.
Okay, cool.
We appreciate you being with us today. Your words of wisdom and your impact on the Atlanta community is incredible. I hope that each of you will join us next month. And if we have not validated your parking yet, we'd love to pay for your parking today. So thank you all for being here today, and go Dogs.